Get a couple more to come on. The chat's rolling already. We're gonna see if Ron, if you're here, Troy's here. I'm gonna click Joe to make sure Joe's. I didn't see Joe come up, but I'm bringing Joe and Brian up yet. Good. I'm making sure they're coming up with us.
That's awesome.
There we go.
I couldn't find the cam and the mic.
Yeah, me neither.
Yes, this is wonders of technology, guys. So this is awesome. We're gonna have some people monitoring the chat for us in the background, hopefully messaging Andrew and I when people come up. But I think I've got the veterans on here. I just, first of all, I'll introduce everyone, but I want to thank Ron Higgs, first of all, for reaching out to Andrew and I and talking to us about this. I'm so psyched about this, even though I was just telling everybody the same thing on the tables. But you know, we've got a great group of veterans in people in our group here. Love to share some of the things that Ron and us that we talked about, and just let you guys discuss this. And hopefully that the people in the audience can hit the chat hard. So as we're going, as usual, get your LinkedIn profile in the chat, connect with everyone, do those things there. I want to talk about the people we've got on stage a little bit. If I missed something, if I got it wrong, please correct me. So with us today, we've got Ron Higgs. Ron's a Navy veteran, Naval Academy graduate, Navy pilot, Navy test pilot. It goes on and on. Brian Arrington, Air Force vet, MBA Syracuse, all kinds of great stuff. Your profile, Brian, is freaking incredible. And then you go Joseph Stepke, Army military police. I gotta believe that you have seen some of the damnedest things in your career there. That would be crazy. Then we got Troy Niehaus, who is an Air Force veteran, who I just, the little bit that he can tell us about his job when he was in the Air Force, it would be cool, just because I know that a lot of it was stuff that nobody gets to hear. Others in the group that we've got, Randy Cooper couldn't be with us today. Jacob Warren may be out there. Randy's a Marine vet. Jacob's an Army vet. I'm sure there's other vets that are in the group, but man, I'm so excited that we're able to do this. You know, one of the things that is really tough for people to understand is they see veterans getting out of the military and they really don't understand. I don't think businesses really understand what they're looking at when they look at two candidates with similar, well, even not even similar job experience, but they look at what a veteran will truly bring to their business if they create the right environment and put them in the right position. And that's what I'm hoping today is we can just share a little bit of those experiences that you guys have had in the military, how they relate to business, and then in business, and to really educate the people that we've got here about that. Because if we do a better job of understanding as business people, we can then have much better teams, much better business performance, and in the end, everyone wins when we put the right people in the right places. So with that, I'm gonna take off and let Andrew say a couple words, and then we'll get started.
Turn my mic back on. Great. Hey guys, really excited about this. Was really surprising. Over the last few roundtables, we've had some great discussions about strategic hiring and human resources and the potential that's now available and the opportunities. And this, I think, really ties in really great. And didn't realize how many veterans that we had in our tribe here that's kind of popped up. But thanks, Ron, for pointing that out. And when we pulled it all together, I think this will be really fantastic. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for your service.
Yeah, it's so cool, guys. So cool, guys. One housekeeping thing I did forget. We do now understand how to get the presentation people on and off a bit better. So as hosts, we will try to. I'm not speaking about today in specific, but we will keep things as good as on topic as we can and moving forward. So, Ron, let's just talk a little bit about our discussion the other day, and then I want the other guys to really weigh in on some of these things. Brian, I know you specifically help people in industry, so I think what we'll do, Ron, is we'll just talk about the 4 or 5 topics, but then I want Brian to talk a little bit about what vets to industry. Excuse me, I'm going to make sure I got the right thing here. Vets to industry is, and then how they kind of apply, and then let's talk through some of these situations. So, Ron, if you could take it away, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sounds good. So Damon and I talked about, when we were talking about this, I just brought up a couple of bullet points. It's like, here are a couple of things that I think veterans bring to the table that maybe are a little bit different from others. And the first one is being mission driven. All of us know what the mission is. If I ask Brian and Troy, we took an oath to the mission, right? That mission is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, right? And that's what drives everything that we do. So your veteran will probably come in and ask you, what's your mission, right? And then they want to completely understand the mission, and then everything that they do, or everything that we do from that point on would be, to move the mission forward, and to move the team forward. And so there are those that, think that mission statements are kind of those things that you just put on the wall, but we all take those to heart, right? Because that's what we did. I mean, we laid our lives on the line for that mission, right? Not doing the same here, but we understand that. And we also understand our part in that mission, right? So whether we are Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, or whatever we were doing in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, the Navy is a pretty broad service. We got submarines, we got ships, we got people flying airplanes, we got SEALs, we got all sorts of stuff, right? But everybody knows what their role is in the completion of that mission. So as far as mission orientation, you're going to get someone who is really dedicated to whatever mission that you've set forth. Troy, you guys have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I can add a couple things. I think beyond the mission driven, I think that one of the things people really respect about veterans is their focus on teamwork. We're used to dealing with people of all nationalities and race, and and there's a hierarchy. There's officers, there's enlisted, there's senior NCOs, and so people get used to working amongst the team. And I think that is something that, at least in my experience, has really been a positive for the business world, and something that business leaders like about veterans. And they're also used to dealing with change. So veterans move every 2, 3, or 4 years, and sometimes they deploy, and then sometimes they go on remote assignments and without their family, and they're in stressful situations. And so they're used to dealing with that type of change. And I think businesses like that as well. Things can happen in business just like can in the military. And so people who have experiences dealing with change and knowing how to get things done, I guess, would be my last thing, right? There's this can-do attitude. It's kind of where Ron added about being mission-oriented or mission-driven. There's this attitude that veterans have in terms of having this can-do attitude to get the job done. If there's a barrier in their way, veterans are going to find a way over that barrier, or around it, or through it, because they know at the end job is there's a mission goal, and they're going to find any way that they can to get that goal accomplished. So I would add those 3 pieces.
Very cool. I've got those written down, Troy. And Brian, Can you just tell us what vets to industry is a little bit? Because I want to make sure we spend just a moment on that and then continue to the discussion.
Yeah. So I actually want to hit everybody in the fields real quick. So for those of you who are veterans in here, either still transitioning or those who transition, I want to take you into my transition story just a tad, which goes to the foundation of where vets to industry came from, because I founded it while still on active duty. So I retired from the Air Force 1 July 2019. So if you guys can do some quick math, I've only been out the Air Force for 1 year. My 1 year anniversary was just past week. I started with Wells Fargo on 24 June, which was 2019, which was exactly 1 week before I retired from the Air Force. So, I wasn't one of those guys who, started working right on the first day of my terminal, right? So, but I was doing everything right, and I was helping tons of people get jobs on the outside. But I want to take you back 1 year prior to my transition. This is when I started my transition research. And I want to take you back to March 2018. This is when I started my transition journey. I was a 19-year senior non-commissioned officer in the Air Force, E7. And I found LinkedIn by accident. Had no idea what LinkedIn was. Thought it was like a job board or something when I found it. And I accidentally typed in veteran into the group tab. And what came up was the Veteran Mentor Network. And for those of you who are not familiar with that, please write this down. It's a group filled with about 139,000 of us, transitioned service members who mentor, guide, provide resources for our community. And the head of that was Tom Cal, who makes you introduce yourself. So once I got introduced, within 30 seconds, I had a message, a cold email. I didn't even know what an email was. And this guy was an Army E7 Ranger, Kenya Spratt, out of Fort Benning, Georgia. And he said, "Hey, brother, are you going to CMA tomorrow?" And I said, "What's CMA?" And he said, "Centurion Military Alliance." I said, "Bro, what's Centurion Military Alliance?" He said, "It's a VSO." I said, "Kenya, if you don't stop with these Army acronyms and tell me what the heck this thing is." And he said, "No, man, let me call you." He said, "It's not an Army acronym. It's a veteran service organization." I said, "Kenya, I feel like we're doing the Laurel and Hardy who's on first routine. What the heck is this?" And he said, "A veteran service organization provides free resources and benefits to veterans and mil spouses and their families for currently serving active duty, guard, reserve members, mil spouses, and those who have transitioned." And I said, "I don't know anything about this. I'm a 19-year senior non-commissioned officer. For those of you who know, the senior NCOs are supposed to know everything. With top 10% of the service of the enlisted force, we're the mentors, the guides, the coaches of the junior enlisted. We're the mentors, guides, and coaches for the junior officers to teach them how to become commanders. And we're the strategic engagement leaders for the commanders to make sure they're doing the right things and giving them the pulse of the enlisted force." And the fact that I didn't know what this was. So I go to Centurion Military Alliance. I learned that there's over 40,000 veteran service organizations nationwide that provide free resources and support to us. And I get pissed. All right. And there's 3 things that happen when a senior non-commissioned officer gets pissed off. We yell at somebody, we break something, or we fix it ourselves. And I couldn't yell at the DOD. All right. I couldn't make one of my troops fix it. So I fixed it myself. And I realized that there was no single site repository where all the free resources were co-located in one place. And all I could think back to was 2002, when I put on E5 for the first time, right? And for the Air Force, E5 for us is our first supervisory rank. So I made it up at 3.5 years in. I was a fast burner. Mm-hmm. And all I could think about was all of the airmen that I had let get out the military in those 17 years from where I was at the 19 years and at that time, and all of the airmen that I had let get out the military without setting them up for success on the outside because of my own ignorance on all the free resources out there. And how many of them are part of the 22 who kill themselves a day, or underemployed, or unemployed, or on substance abuse, or divorced, or homeless, or incarcerated, all because Brian didn't set them up for success on the outside. I just sent them to TAP, not knowing what the heck TAP did, and only doing it because the commander would get beat up if they didn't go to TAP, because that was the only accountability measure that was there. Never knew what had happened to them.
Yeah.
So Vets to Industry is a online free veteran, military spouse, dependent child, Blue Star and Gold Star family member and caregiver website of all the free resources nationwide for those demographics. We provide the free resources. We have 125 volunteers nationwide that provide mentorship, coaching, and guidance on branding, LinkedIn profiles. We find you whatever stage of your transition in branding, and finding resume help, and life needs. Maybe you just need a PTSD service animal, or maybe you need to find financial assistance. We find you those resources. We do virtual networking events. Our next one is actually this Saturday. We only have 33 tickets left out of 250. Nice. So connect with me on LinkedIn and we'll get you help. But those are some of the things that we do.
So cool to hear that, Brian. I'm so glad that Ira Bowman suggested that we have you on, because it's a great resource, and I'm sure the people on here, if reach out to Brian, if you'd like to be a part of it, and help him, and if we can just help promote what he's doing, I think that'll be a good thing. If we can do that, because we do have some people that are very good at that in the group. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I think what we want to do is we want to get down to some of your life experiences, because when I think of the military, it's just amazing. When you think of some of the situations that people in the military are put in, as far as you know, you can grow up anywhere, and in 10 months, you can be anywhere in the world doing something that you never knew anything about 10 months ago. And then beyond that, these situations, you know, and Ron made this very apparent, the situations are always changing, and always, especially in combat situations, or even in life situations, as I'm sure Joe had a lot of experiences with that, being an MP, or the things that Troy did. So when we come back to the key points that Ron was talking about mission driven, what are some experiences that you guys can share around mission, where you guys really felt that you feel that and understand that from the military? Anyone?
Well, do you mind? Can I jump in on this one? First off, Brian, please connect with me. I want to go to that networking event. Right? So,
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get off topic on that, but I wanted to put that out there.
Awesome.
Secondly, when you talk about mission, and I think it's in any job we do. For myself, when I got out of the military, I'm a disabled vet. So I got a pin in my hip, and I got out after 3.5 years. I loved it. I wanted to stay in. But unfortunately, as we all know, when you get one leg shorter than the other, and I wasn't going to be able to supposedly walk anymore. I'm doing good. I'm still walking, guys, but that's all right. But the whole point is, when you get out, so much is instilled in you, no matter what job you go into. Ron was right. You start asking, what's the mission? What do I do? Break it down for me.
Yep.
And then you have this plan of, and I know attack is a negative word, but it's the only one I could think of. You think of a plan of attack on how you can be the best in that situation. You know, I don't claim to be the best in everything, but I'm telling you, I will damn sure try my best to be the best. So one day people will look at me like I'm the best. Didn't mean to use best a bunch of times, but it's true. That's from the military training that in me, going, all right, what's my job? All right. How long does it usually take for me to do this? Great. I'll do it in half that time. And I'm going to stay up late. I'm going to learn. I'm going to try. And it's just the persistence of what the military instilled in me. And not only that, when I did stand-up comedy on the side, when I was back in Florida, the self-confidence you get from it. Now, I was always able to go out and talk to anybody. It didn't matter who I was in front of, but the military helped, like, really, really cement the foundation in that.
Yeah,
it really did. And I would go back and tell you guys about, you want to talk about change. And I know I said it to Damon. I love putting order to chaos. That was one of the things I loved to do. When you go in somewhere, in any organization I was in after the military, it was like, oh, this is messed up. This is messed up. Great. Let me show you how I
Yeah.
order the chaos. And that's, I think that was it. But I've also been on the other side. When I was in the AIT and I found out I was going to Korea. I'm 18 years old, and Ron and Brian and Troy, I'm sorry, I'm gonna show that I was a baby at this time, and I'm gonna be 50 this year, so a lot's transpired. But anyways, I find out I'm going to Korea. I think I was on the phone to my mother thinking about MASH, and I'm going, please get me out of here. Please get me out of here. I don't care what it is. I don't want to go to Korea. I'm scared to death. I'm going to die. And that's not what happened. I get over there, and it was my college. I mean, I'm an MP doing line duty. I worked my way up from line duty to traffic accident investigations. It was awesome. I had such a great time. And the camaraderie of people that you meet. I would just go back to you guys, because I'll shut up because I could go on, and you could tell the passion that I have on it. But with the military, you get so much when you hire a vet. I mean, I see it in Ron, Troy, Brian. Do you guys still get up early, or is it just me? Am I the only one that gets up early in the morning? I'm sure we're all programmed to it. My wife hates it because I'm the 5, 6 o'clock guy in the morning going, hey, honey, come on, get up. And she is not that. So she's more like, take every morning. Oh, I'm just high on life. And it's just funny. That's another thing. Being on time. That's another thing you get from being there. We don't want to be just on time. We're there about 15 minutes early. Can I do anything to help the set up for the day? That's us. Persistence. The character you get from people. So I'm going to yield back my time to Brian, Ron
and Troy. Let's hear something from you guys on this subject.
I want you guys to. Brian's a perfect example of what you get, right? Brian looked at something, wasn't satisfied with it, and said, "I'm going to fix it." Right? I mean, that's typical. Troy alluded to the teamwork part of this as well. Brian's got some help there. That's awesome. Awesome. Troy alluded to the teamwork part of this as well, in that we are inherently biased towards improving the team and or the organization. And so what we do is always towards the team. So when you're in and I'm going to take, I was an aviator in a squadron, right? So I'm going to take it, for example, it doesn't do much good for me to be, good by myself, right? You have to, everything that I did was to improve the squadron and what the squadron did. And overall, our part of the mission, meaning if we did better in our part of the mission, whatever it was, then there was a higher chance of success of that overall mission succeeding, which again was to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, right? So again, that teamwork piece and bias towards improving the team and or the organization is important.
Oh, it's critical in business. I mean, you look at the relationship between that and business. That is what you want. Mm-hmm. That is the essence of what you want in your damn business. You want people that can get in and, as Joe said, order chaos. As you're saying, understand the overall mission.
Yeah, and I've been lucky in my career to work with a lot of veteran-owned businesses and veterans, and that was always the thing that was amazing is showing up on time, getting up early, doing the things that are hard, and actually enjoying that part of it. We just that it seems like that's the way everybody should operate when you hire somebody, but it isn't that way. I mean, it is basic fundamentals. It's very cool. But I did want to chime in a little bit, and not to steer things off, but we're talking a lot about hiring or, the potential and what veterans bring to the table on the employee side, but also, on the business side of it as business owners and entrepreneurs, I want to talk about that too, because there are enormous opportunities to team and partner and work with veteran-owned businesses, and even down to a one-man consulting business. I know things, but I'm just going to put that out on the table a little bit, so we address that a little bit as well. And I know, Troy, you're down there, so we want to get you in as well. Don't forget.
Yeah, so let's hear your thoughts, Troy, and then we'll go to Brian after that. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on mission, Troy.
You know, it doesn't really matter what career field you were in the military. You can be military police, you can be in supply, you can be a pilot. I was a special agent as an officer. And by the way, I was enlisted and an officer. I was enlisted first. The best thing for me as a young 18-year-old who grew up in Florida, they sent me to Alaska and I had to mature all by myself as a young 18-year-old. And then I went on to the academy, got my education, became an officer, and spent my time on active duty then in the field as a special agent. And one of the things that, you know, talk about mission oriented. One of the things that I did is I ran double agent operations for the Air Force, for the military. And I had a certain area that I was responsible for. Essentially what we would do is we would train, we would identify, train people, whether it's an active duty person, whether it's a civilian, to become a spy. According to the Foreign Intelligence Service, thought they were dealing with a spy, but really they were working for me and they were a double agent. I would tell them what to do. You know, they would then meet with the handlers, whether it's a Chinese intelligence service or the Russian intelligence service or someone like that. And, you know, the whole idea was to counter or thwart the intelligence gathering activities of a foreign adversary. And there's nothing more important than keeping your mission set on something like that, because if you weren't mission oriented and things tended to go opposite in a direction, then things could really get bad, right? And so the focus on any job, that was just my particular example. And then the teamwork along with that, I can't stress that enough. You know, and along with that, it's the integrity piece and the character piece. And I would say the vast majority of military members, you know, one of the benefits that's just ingrained into them about having these qualities of character and integrity. And in my line of work, it was absolutely important, right? I mean, we're dealing with national secrets and things like that, but it's important for every role. And I think that's something that when you look at civilians who are looking to hire, you know, being able to hopefully understand that what they're getting is someone who's team focused. You know, they care more about the team than they do about themselves individually. The mission focus, you know, they know what to do to get the job done, and doing it with a sense of integrity and character that, you know what, I can rely on you. Even when things get bad, even when things get stressful, I can rely on that person. There's weaknesses in every walk of life. We have had it in the military. But I think the vast majority of people are going to have those components which add value to any organization that they are a part of.
Very cool. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so I'm going to shock everybody at the end of this video with some information about me. But what I want to say right now is give you some percentages. So it's about 24% of MIL spouses are unemployed, which is a huge number, right, that they have issues with. So we have to think of this as a whole military community. But for veterans getting out or service members getting out, there's about 55% whom get out and they leave their first job within the first year. And that number goes up to 70% leaving their first job in the second year. And why is this? A lot of it has to do with culture and lack of training, because they're not getting the type of training and support that they're used to, and they don't have anyone to talk to through that. So that's one of the things that Vets Industry helps with is we stay with them forever. So, you know, we hope that, you know, we're the ones that they call 6 months, 14 months from now and say, man, things just aren't working out for me. And then we can, say, okay, what's going on? Let's do a root cause analysis. What's the impact? But I want to talk about my transition and some of the things that we don't know, and I'm sure every single one of you can talk about, is when you are transitioning, because this is what happened with me, when I thought that I wanted to be a marketing a marketing manager, all right, in December of 2018, when I was retiring in 1 July. I then learned what a consultant was. I had never heard of a consultant before. And I didn't realize that for 8 years in the military, I was a consultant. I was on the wing inspection teams. For those of you in the Air Force, knows what that is. I was providing, sound knowledge and support and coaching and leadership to senior enlisted and commanders on how they should run operations within their unit. And I would do DMAIC, right? I would define the problem for them. I would measure what they were currently doing. I would analyze that against established orders and procedures. And then I would seek to improve those with certain tangible actions. And then I would give them an after action report, right, for the control phase. That's what a consultant does on the outside. And they get 6 figures for it. But we don't even know these roles exist.
Right. Yeah.
And so through Hire Our Heroes Corporate Fellowship Program, which I did, and I'm an alumni of, Centurion Military Alliance, 4Block, I learned all of these things. And I realized that just because I had a master's degree in management and I liked marketing did not mean I could leave the military to become a marketing manager. Yeah. It meant I could become a marketing analyst at $40,000 a year. And I have 6 kids. Couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So I did a job market analysis, which helps you identify careers in a geographic location, salary scales, what the cost of living is there, and then also the culture fit from you into that company, because that's extremely important for you to stay in a company.
Right.
And you want to do your due diligence, and you want to pass this information on to those in your network whom are transitioning, and you want to get to them as soon as possible, not within their last 3 months or even 12 months of service, because anything can happen at any point in career. You all know this. You've had 1 year. At 1 year about to get out, or 1 year in, and they get a medical discharge or involuntary separation, and they're not prepared to get out because they were never even thinking about it. And TAP does not prepare you. 1 week of TAP does not prepare you to transition in the civilian world. Yeah, it doesn't. So that was.
And now, Troy, first of all, I think Troy, when did you need to get off, Troy? You had a commitment.
I was able to push that out, so I can
say. Okay, great. Well, thank you. I just want to be. Go ahead, Joseph.
If I could add to that, Brian, you are absolutely right. I was in for 3.5, and I wasn't ready, and they labeled me at 10%, and I get out. I'm all right. I'm just gonna conquer the world, and when I got out, that's when I went down to Florida. I was trying to find myself. When I got married the second time. My first wife in the military and has probably a dim recollection of the whole thing. But either way, the second time I met up with somebody at the American Legion, and it was just by chance. And all of a sudden he started talking to me, and he's going like this, "You have a limp. Is that?" Yeah. And I go, "That's why I got out." They said I couldn't walk again, but I actually could still walk. It still hurts and blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, he helped me. He helped me get, go back in so that the military can help me still, because obviously injuries don't get better with age.
Yeah.
It's not a fine wine. And it did. So now I'm 70%, not afraid to tell anybody, but I'm 70%. And it was all due to him helping me. And he's the one that guided me through this. The American Legion also, because then they were my representative, I think you would say. And I was honorably discharged. Everything was still up and up, and I loved it. I got out as an E4, took the test of being E5, but never know how that one went. Except I thought I did good. But either way, I'm out, and he helped me. And he helped me American Legion helped me with my mortgage, the tax break with the mortgage. Did you know I live in Indianapolis or Indiana? I have 4 children. All of them get to go to college for free. Yeah. That's better than winning the lottery. I'm not moving.
Yeah.
I say that there was so much positive that I didn't know. And when I went in there to talk to the guy about the whole medical side, the first thing he said, "Hey, do you own your home?" Yeah. And I'm here thinking I'm going to talk to him about something. He goes like this, pulls out a sheet. He goes, "Here you go. Bring that over there. They're going to help you with your taxes." "Hey, how many kids do you have?" I'm looking at my wife going like this. "How many kids do I have?" "I have 4. I mean, aren't we supposed to be talking about my hip?" He goes like this. "No, well, you know they get to go to college for free?" No. He pulls out another sheet, slaps it on the table. And it was just such a great thing. And that's how come, Brian, I really commend you for what you did. I mean, and I wrote it down, the veterans to industry and some, I got to look those up.
That's to industry.
That's to industry.
That's to industry.
I got it up. I got the link up. Ira sent it out.
Good. Good.
But
I think
you on that, Brian. That is just awesome. So
go ahead there, Ron.
Oh, Andrew brought up something I wanted to not let that pass, right? He talked about veterans being business owners, and a few of those other things, as far as what we bring to the table. One of the things that we discussed, Damon, with Andrew was, vets are used to doing things kind of well outside of their initial job description, right? And kind of prepared for a lot of different emergencies, right? So no battle plan has survived the first contact with the enemy, right?
Yep.
So we're kind of used to things going way off the rails, right? And we think about that in those things. And I think I gave you this quick example. When I first got to my squadron, hey, great, I'm in a squadron, I get to fly planes. Well, not so fast, right? So my primary job in the squadron was the legal officer. So in other words, I had to run the non-judicial punishment, which is the punishment the commander can give the people that break the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And I had to run court martials. I ran 3 court martials, non-judicial punishment, and all that. And the other thing that I did is, military aircraft fly from country to country, and believe it or not, they make us go through customs as well. So we needed somebody in the squadron that knew how to do customs. So I had to go to school for a week to become a customs inspector. So, all those little cards that you get when you're on an airplane flying internationally, I had to pass those cards out, collect them from everyone, and get trained to identify all the stuff that, we had to declare and then meet with somebody from, it wasn't Homeland Security then, but someone from actual customs to make sure that the squadron got through customs. Nothing to do with flying, right? So again, we're used to doing things that are well outside our job description. So again, how did that translate? When I ended up as part of a startup as the director of program management, I saw that we had some problems around marketing, right? The website sucked. We didn't have, everybody had different business cards, things like that. We didn't have any video of our product in action. So I went, okay, here's what I'll do. It's like, I pointed it out, so I'll take care of it. CEO, if you approve the expenditure of the funds, I will make sure I'll get the website redone. I'll get the video. I'll redo our logo, and I'll get everybody business cards and everything like that. And I did it, right? Because we looked around well outside my job description, but again, looking out for the team and not
special projects.
Just like Joe said. So Brian, you got a couple things to say to that?
So I want to help you all out. There's 2 free resources for veterans for starting your own business. And even if you're an entrepreneur and you've been, in a business for a while, to expand your business, to help you with getting grants or with getting investors, it's the first one is Warrior Rising.
Okay.
And then the other one is Bunker Labs.
Okay. Bunker Labs, Warrior Rising. Okay.
Check both of them out. It's free, 100% free. And at any stage of your entrepreneurship, even from ground up, not even having a business plan, not even filed, they'll help you with everything.
Yeah, and there's even people putting more stuff in the chat. So we've got Alon Zyber here on the stage, and he had and hey, glad to have you here, Alon. Look forward to your input here.
So first of all, thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. Hey, Troy.
How are you?
Always good, man. Thank you. And
good,
for those of you who haven't met, it's a pleasure, true pleasure. For those of you who never heard me speak, I'm going to get passionate in a second and loud. And it's not only because this particular matter is close to my heart and it's close to home. Right there in the middle, this is my daughter who's serving right now in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, in the Air Force. And I am super proud of her. And that already revealed my my background. So I'm Israeli, and over there it's mandatory to serve, right? Men for 3 years minimum, and women for 2 years. But you also grow up in an environment where I spoke to somebody the other day, and we talked about military, and we talked about the Gulf War. And I said that I actually was in the Gulf War, but on the receiving end, right? When we got the Scud missiles coming, but I actually did some work with the Patriot missile battery folks, the U.S. So thank you, America. Thank you, military people. Everybody, thank you. I want to say a couple of things that will get you thinking, hopefully. One, Ira kind of wrote something on the chat that I think is applicable to everywhere, right? There's a famous little story about the CFO that goes to the CEO and says, hey, what if we invest in all these people, training and employee development and stuff, and then they leave? And the CEO turns back to the CFO and says, what if we don't and they stay?
Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting philosophy about organizations and investing in different things, just to talk about that point. The other point is, and I want to ask you openly, everybody, please, if you don't mind, have you seen before or run into some situations where hiring managers think something? I don't want to say what it is. I don't know if there is something, but they think something when they hear the word veteran. They see a resume, they see 10 resumes, and then one of them or two of them are veterans. Okay? What do you think is, if there is any bias at all, and what it is?
I don't believe there's any bias. I used to hire, and when I was multi-unit at Aaron Sales and Lease, and actually I would always look at veterans, probably more so because I would think that they would have the same work ethic that I do. But I don't think there's really a bias. I read it in the chat when you first put it out there, Alon. And
I think you're being naive, Joe. I think you're being naive.
No, I don't think.
So Brian, what do you think? You're helping people. You're helping people, Brian. So what do you hear?
Yeah, so I see it a lot because I work with corporate America quite a bit. I get recruiters and hiring managers all the time. I landed at Wells Fargo, where all of my coworkers, not a single one ever served. Matter of fact, my boss, I said, "Hey, you're like a captain." He's like, "What's that?" and so I had to explain to him, "You ever seen Saving Private Ryan?" He's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Okay, that guy was a captain, like not like the captain of a Navy ship, like you wouldn't be steering a boat and stuff like that." But I had to break things down for him because he had no idea. But
yeah,
PTSD is the main concern. And then being too rigid in this, because they take movies and that's their reality. It's very, very odd. Just like seeing like stories like West Side Story, makes people feel like, urbanites are going to be a certain way. They're going to, have their pants hanging down to the waistband, it's a bias. It's almost like an unconscious bias. They just feel that demographic is going to have it. Now, not everybody, because some people have family members, blah, 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 but the majority of the American workforce that does not have some kind of direct line to the military, all they get is information from the news.
Yeah.
Or if they don't use news, then from movies.
I have never encountered that. As a veteran myself, I've never had anybody look down on me, because when I interviewed with anybody or they talked to me, you actually know how I am. I mean, if you and I were talking, Brian, and afterwards you go, "Oh my, well, Joe is not like that." And I understand PTSD. I've gone through it.
Yeah.
Not from the military, a totally different, separate thing, but I did go through it. I understand what it is. I've never had that. I've taught my kids to every time they see somebody, a veteran, no matter what.
Joe, that's awesome, really. But I just want you to be aware. And I see the chat, and it looks like there is a bias in corporate America.
There is, and I think Brian hit it on the head with the movies, right? I have run into it. People really watch a lot of TV and movies, and they get a lot of their impressions of what they think the military is because of that. I called myself a leadership consultant at some point, and I had a guy says, "Well, we're not looking for military style leadership." Well, how do you define that, right? And as it turns out, he never had any contact with anybody in the military, just been watching TV and watching movies, right? And the example that I gave him in the 24 years that I spent in the military, I never uttered the phrase, "That's an order," right? And then in every single episode, something, movie, TV program that you see about the military or a paramilitary organization, somebody says that. Kirk said it to Bones in Star Trek, right? I mean, it's just somebody thinks that that's the way it is.
But Ron, real quick, my point was not to stir up the pot against anybody. Philosophically, there is bias in us people towards any group of people, especially if we don't understand that, if we don't know more about that group. Yeah, that's natural.
Job to try to educate somebody on it.
Joe, you're absolutely right. The point I'm trying to say is just for people to understand, it happens to be right now veterans, but it goes towards anyone, whether it's religion, color of skin, height, physical appearance. We as human beings, we tend to have bias. The thing is, just I want people to think about is the group that is being biased against or towards, however you say it, right? They will always try to do whatever they can to educate everybody else outside that group and bridge that gap. The other group is, need to be open-minded and learn, right? The point is, to Brian's point earlier, who just disappeared. Oh, he's still there. Brian Arrington.
Yeah,
that's fine. But the point is, do something. The one thing that's coming for any point of it, however you look at it, is do something. Just bitching about it and telling people how poor we are doesn't matter. And I can say that as an Israeli, as a Jew, as a foreigner, as somebody who's gone through shit in life. I feel comfortable to say that. If we don't, and kudos to Brian, who I don't know you, but it looks like you've done and you just battled it and you moved forward. Awesome. Women are more biased just because they're in HR. Jennifer is asking. That's a great discussion, right? But the point is, again, just for people, this is just me saying I'm biased against everybody. It happens to be the veterans here, which is close to my heart as well. And Brian, from now on, you don't have to raise your hand anymore. Just go.
Well, I don't want to talk over anyway. So I made a misstep in my speech. I said unconscious bias. I meant implicit bias. But I also want to say that everyone I talk to, Joe, not everybody sees us that way. I want to make that clear. It's not like a universal downtrodden view of veterans, because you could be completely lucky and everybody that you talk to is thought super, super high. Completely possible, because there are circles, and it's also geographic location, because you go to Texas and you're not going to find a whole lot of people who think down about the military because of the population. So it's also geo location based, which is very odd, but it makes sense too.
Organization as well, Brian. You may go to Wells Fargo where their DNA and they promote it. I was working for a large organization that in closed doors, unfortunately, I was exposed to some of these biases that were not good. So it's not just, you're right. In Texas, you probably see more favorable. Yes, I agree.
But every time that I meet somebody, and I'll give an example. One business owner he ran a digital web design business out in LA, had never hired a veteran before, didn't know anything about it. I taught him about the WOTC, the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, where hiring a veteran or a disabled veteran can get you up to $9,600 in free federal tax credits. He had no idea about it, but had to tell him, well, you have to do it when you're hiring a veteran and not after, or you lose out on it. I told him about all the values of hiring a veteran because he had no idea why it would be better to hire a veteran or not. He didn't have a negative bias towards one. He just didn't think it was valuable. He never approached it or looked at it. Others who have had a bias, I explained to them that PTSD is not a military only disorder.
Yeah.
It traumatized civilians as well because of events, and that opens up their mind too. So it's also educating along the way.
We said I said it earlier, Brian. It's constant education for both sides.
Yes.
And here's want to complicate things even more. Not every veteran is the same. We can't generalize veteran.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Right. So,
and their experiences aren't.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't even see it. If you went through my profile far enough, I was in the National Guard for 8 or 9 years. I don't even remember. I was an E5 when I got out, you know, and it was a much different experience, obviously, that being more of a part-time thing, but it changed my life. I mean, when the things you guys are talking about mission, you're talking about teamwork. We had to do the same things there, you know, not obviously not in the fronts that they have to do now, but you know, we did the offshore work and those kind of things that you guys are seeing. And I just think about myself personally hearing that. I never even said anything about it, but I did have people talk to me about it through my career, asking me about things. Someone said something about we don't need the military something or other, but someone made the comment to me the other as I was running a business. They said, well, it's your military background, you that's why you do it like this. And I don't think that's necessarily true across the board. And these employers need to understand, as Alon alluded to, we've got to continue the education process. And that's what I was hoping that we would do here today. And we're running out of time, but I am so grateful for you guys. In the last words here, though, I'd like to let Ron and Troy just give their last thoughts, and we'll have a conclusion with Andrew after that. And man, I think, you know, it gets me fired up because I'd like to do another veterans topic and continue it. But Ron and Troy, any last thoughts here? We'll let everyone go around, actually.
Alon wanted the last word, but we pulled him off.
Oh, okay. So Ron, what's your last thoughts?
In general, a couple of the points that we talked about, you know, vets are mission driven, you know, biased towards teamwork, you know, can you know, operate kind of well outside their job description and are used to it, used to running into sort of unexpected situations, leadership, obviously. And then, you know, one of the things we didn't get a chance to talk about is the value of feedback. You know, throughout our careers, we get constant feedback, and at least in aviation, it was brutal. You know what I mean? And it made us better. And then the dealing with change, you alluded to it in the beginning, and I'll just go through the story. Everybody's seen the Blue Angels. You know, the Blue Angels look like. In the military, you know, we might not think of ourselves as people who manage change and know how to deal with change, but we do that very well because everybody's seen the Blue Angels. But did you know that 1/3 of the Blue Angels organizations turns over every year? Not just the pilots, the maintenance people, all the people behind the scenes that are doing all the admin and everything else. You know, the fact that we move, every organization that we've been a part of is under constant change. It completely changes over, you know, every 3 years. But organizations like that, how are they able to sustain that level of performance, like while under that level of change? If you think about any company you're in, can you imagine 1/3 of that company changing every year and being able to maintain the exact same performance that you have or improve? I mean, a high level of performance, which the Blue Angels are. So think about that, and we could have lots of discussions on things that that veterans bring to the table. Thanks for having me here. I really
Troy,
appreciate
what are your thoughts, Troy?
Yeah,
Awesome, Ron. Awesome, Ron.
I agree with Ron 100%. And I'd add, the teamwork and the service before self. And so, and with Alani, where he talked about bias, there's bias in every walk of life. And unfortunately, there is bias towards some people in the military. They think their views are the same. They think, politically speaking, or pro-war, or, rough and rigid. And that's true, right? So I'd say, just like with everyone, forget just being veterans, give people a chance, talk to them. Everyone is diverse. The military is a microcosm of society, right? And so you've got good people in the military, and we've got our bad apples as well in the military, but just give them a chance. But I think, to echo what Ron and others have said, the training piece, the feedback piece, that's instilled, the service, the teamwork, that's instilled in a military member. And I think in terms of corporate life, business life, bringing that to the table can certainly be a benefit.
Yeah. So, Brian?
So there was a last two comments. When I said I was going to blow everyone's mind, I was actually a military cop for 20 years. And now I'm a business initiative consultant at Wells Fargo, the number 29 Fortune 500 company in the world. I feel like I'm stealing from a bank. I have no idea how they hired me, but they did. So it's possible for an E7 cop to join a huge firm. Also, there was a message in here that I wanted to make sure everybody knew. So Professor Pete has a son overseas in Korea who's about to either get out or re-up, and they asked the question of whether or not they should get out or re-up. That's an individual question that I really would like Professor Pete to reach out to me and the Best Industry team so we can identify and figure out what that person's individual goals are. Professor, please reach out to me on LinkedIn and to Alex Mims, who's been in the chat as well, so we can help you out, and anyone else who's got that.
Awesome. So, Joe, you're the last one to go before Andrew kicks us out.
We're going quick because Andrew's got to give his goodbye farewell speech.
Drops the hammer on us here.
Ron, Troy, and even Damon too, with your service. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be up here with such greats like yourself. And all I could say is, I am glad I am connected with all of you. So thank you. That's all I got to say.
We're grateful for you too.
Andrew, take us home, man. Take us home.
Yeah.
Andrew.
Well, you didn't leave me much time, but that's awesome. I love this is one time we can happily go over. Hey guys, thanks. Great conversation. I'm really glad it steered like it does towards talking about bias. That was really interesting. But biases are, and in the chat room there was a lot of great discussion around biases. There's good biases and bad biases too. So, getting out and talking, and like you said, as diverse as veterans are in the military as a microcosm is absolutely true. And but basically at the end of the day, I think there's a whole lot to learn from the processes and the organization and the skill sets that are long that the private sector can learn, from veterans and from their experiences and apply that. But at the end of the day, I think the one bias I have from the military and working with them too is this working for the greater good. And when you apply that to your own organization, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Great stuff, guys. We're going to go back to the tables. These folks will be here. So for those still on, stick around. We'll keep for about another half hour after. And encourage you to do that. And I think, this was great to have this after our break on the 4th of July. So it's timely, but I actually forget what we have up for next week, Damon, if you want.
Oh, let's see. Next week. Oh, geez. Dead people rarely succeed. We got Professor Pete's going to talk about stress relief. It's going to be fun. He's got some exercises to do. We're going to go through that. We're going to think because you know what doesn't. And when he and I are talking about it, it's like, yeah, stress is kind of important because it'll kill you, and then you really can't succeed if you're dead. So at least in this life. So it's great stuff there. Dr. Aaliyah, saw your hand up. We just got tied up, couldn't get to you. Thanks. The chat was awesome. Let's jump back to the tables here, guys, and let's do some more talking about the subject. I'm thinking that implicit bias might be something that we talk about in the future, but after next week, the Dead People Rarely Succeed, we will be then talking about content generation. We got a couple people that are writing for hundreds of thousands of people a day. It's going to be pretty interesting. So back to the tables we go.
Thank you.
See you there.
Thank you.
You
I'll
bet.
stick around.
Awesome job, guys.